I've got a dear friend who's going to come share a bit of a testimony with us. And it's a gentleman who I've been friends with in little ways, and who recently shared a bit of his story with me, which then became dangerous, because after he shared his story with me, I said, how would you feel about sharing your story with a few more people than just me? And he very kindly has agreed to do that. So please welcome Jed, who'll be sharing his testimony with us this morning.
Thank you, Sarah. I've never spoken publicly before, not even at my wedding, so I'm nervous. Anyway, about 9 weeks ago, I became a Christian. And that journey has been summed up by 2 four-letter words, really: fear and love. From a small boy, I was scared of dying. It was horrendous. I think I would go to sleep at night and never wake up. And that was pretty tough. I think growing up, getting into primary school, dragged kicking and screaming to primary school because I didn't like the idea of doing it. I learned that actually it was pretty fearful too. You know, I was really struggling with the other kids. I couldn't relate to them particularly well. But then I started to grow. Excuse me. Here it comes to me. It's my life story. Trying to condense 57 years into 10 minutes is daunting, to say the least. Anyway, growing up, learning about life, trying to understand these people that are around me. It was an aggressive world. You know, the boys wanted to beat you up. The girls just ignored you. It was just a tough life. And then, as I was reaching the end of primary school, my parents went through a rather bitter divorce as I was leaving primary school and then joining secondary school. That was also very hard. And unusually for 1969, my father got custody of me. And that wasn't expected. We planned to move with my mother, planned to go to secondary school from her place. It was all mapped out, everything was going to work out fine. And then suddenly, I've been brought up with my grandmother, who I struggled with. Anyway, so the start of secondary school was tough. So, again, it's learning these new people. And in fact, before I left primary school, I'd negotiated a push bike through swapping my Lego set and all my toy cars with a kid from primary school, and this was my push bike. And I thought, wow, that's mine. You know, my parents were going to get me one, so I've got it myself. And but shortly before I left primary school, a guy that used to go to my school bullied me off it, rode it into the sunset, and I never saw it again. I thought, oh, well, this is not good. So when I ended up going to secondary school, who's at this school? This guy, two years older than me. And literally I spent the first 3 years of secondary school avoiding him. If he was on my bus, I'd get off the bus. Yeah, it's weird, yeah, this is difficult. Anyway, he left school, things started to calm down, continued to grow, got interested in certain subjects, and then I left my father because it wasn't working, so my mother agreed to have me, so now I moved into a new world with my step-family, and that was an interesting start. But then we got on fine, things started to build. I just dated girls, they were lovely. They weren't aggressive and abusive like the boys were. You weren't in fear of being beaten up. They just did your head in once a month. And then had a party at my parents' house, an impromptu party at my parents' house where a few friends came over, and the girl of my dreams came into my life, sitting over there, by accident, with another guy. To this day, she tells me she didn't leave that cardigan behind on purpose. Sadly, I believe her. And then we dated. I think I was 18, she was 16, so we were very young. And then by 19, 20, I proposed to her, and we were due to get married when I was 21, she was 19, in September of 79. But then came my 21st birthday. The guys at work took me out for lunch and got me well and truly tanked up. And in the evening I was due to go out with friends and drink a little more. And things were good. You know, this was great. I had a great time. It was a good knees up. Quite an important part of my life. Wedding to look forward to. My job was going to relocate to Buckinghamshire. We set to move there and set up a new life. But then I sobered up. And not only did I sober up from the alcohol, I'd sobered up to life again. It was horrendous. And then I had a massive anxiety attack where I was being driven by my boss to a meeting that we'd arranged. And my life just switched. It was as if somebody had stuck a jet-sized syringe in my neck and sucked out every piece of self-confidence and self-esteem I'd ever had. I became just an empty bag of skin. I didn't even have the confidence to put one foot in front of the other. I couldn't walk. I had to relearn walking. It was mental, literally mental. And back in the 70s, the support was just not there. Anyway, I couldn't be left alone for a minute. I was just so scared of everything. It was horrendous. And I'd have to have people on shifts sleeping on the floor next to it at night because I would get these uncontrollable shakes that I always thought I was going to die from. I'm just going to die from these shakes. And there was just no rhyme or reason to this. You know, I used to be okay. Now I've gone mad. And it was difficult. And of course, we've got this wedding arranged for the September. But I didn't care about anything. It was a minute-by-minute existence. You know, the wedding was, wow, do I have to really go through this? Anyway, September came. I was suffering severe agoraphobia. I couldn't make it to the end of the gate. It was horrendous. I can't begin to tell you. Anyway, so I went through the process of the wedding. I was just a passenger. You know, I said the vows. I was just standing there. We were booked to go on honeymoon down to Poleseth. Couldn't make it. I couldn't make it at the end of the road, let alone Cornwall. So this is in South East London, by the way. And then we were living together in a flat. So we were in each other's company all the time, and it was extremely tough for a 19-year-old girl to be looking after a guy that had suddenly lost his head and couldn't stop shaking and just didn't understand what was going on. We couldn't understand. There was no one out there that could tell us what this was all about. So she said, well, we'll have to separate for a bit because I can't cope with this. So we separated. We arranged to do it for 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, I was keen to get back, but this anxiety sensation is quite weird because whenever you're away from your comfort zone, you want to run back. You've got this urge to run back to this comfort zone. And then you run back to your comfort zone, but you get there and you don't feel any better. It's just the same. So when I said, yes, can I come back? She said, well, no, I'm really not ready for it. So after 6 months of getting married, we were separated and I was back living with my parents. And it's hard to cut a long story short because there's a lot to this, but we didn't see each other, and that was it. It was over. And then living with my parents is a backward step, so you've got to try and rebuild from that. And slowly, I rebuilt from that. You know, we tried countless different therapies. As I was still a passenger, I bundled into a new relationship which didn't really make an awful lot of sense to me. I just bounded into obscure jobs because it's all I could do. But then still building from that. It sounds ridiculous, but I actually started a business because I felt that I couldn't work for anybody else because I'd let them down. It was impossible to be loyal to someone and say, well, actually, I can't actually go past the end of the road today. But if I ran my own business, if I did my own thing, it didn't matter. I'd only let myself down, so it wasn't a problem. So I did that. I stuck with this other relationship. It went on for 10 years or so. It took me 15 years to get back to where I was before over this anxiety, this tension in the stomach. It was just a day-by-day existence. And then after 10 years, I married reluctantly this partner of mine, an unloving relationship. Almost through convenience, so I didn't know any better, this would do. And then after building the business up quite successfully, and after this 15-year period of getting back to where I was, I actually started to grow properly as a person. I actually began to make sense and stand on my own 2 feet. And if anything, my partner at the time, who was sort of controlling me like a bit of a puppet, couldn't control me anymore. I was actually standing on my own 2 feet for the first time and growing, which is pretty damn good. And then after 10 years of marriage, she went off with another guy. And for the first time, I was properly on my own. And the good thing was, I didn't realise it. It took me a few days to think, actually, I'm on my own, there's no one else here, this is weird. Concentrated on my business, built it further. And then, mixed socially, there were people trying to set me up with other females, and you need to have a female in your life. I thought, right, okay, let's see how this goes. But nothing was really happening. And I was staying at a friend's house over a weekend, because I still have some good friends. And they said to me, have you tried this site, Friends Reunited, where you reunite yourself with kids from school? I think, school? I really want to reunite my friends at school. She says, well, okay, come and have a look at it. So I scrolled down, and there was all these names I recognised, and she said, oh, they do profiles. Okay, let's read the profile. Right, my name kept coming up. Strange. What do they want to know about me? So I thought, okay, I like this. Went to work the next day, registered for Friends United, paid my £5. Scrolled through all these kids' names, got in contact with them, spent a year doing reunions, get-togethers, holidays away, reaffirming the fact I didn't like these people in the first place. And the obscure reasons why they're on there in the first place. But the key driving force was trying to get back in touch with my first wife. Because obviously through her school I could put her name in. So for a year I would put her name in and it would never come up. It's like, oh. So I contacted some of her school friends. And they'd say, well, we've not heard anything from her in over 20 years. And I'd figured that maybe she was either dead or she'd moved back to Australia, which is where she was brought up. And then, like I say, this was a year gone. And then the website writes you and say, okay, have a look at your profile again, you might want to adjust it, pay another £10 and join for another year. And I'm thinking, no. Done all that, been there, done that. It was okay, I want to move on. So I deleted everything on this site. And as it was about 5 o'clock in the afternoon at work, and I thought, well, one last time, I'll put in a certain name. And ping, up it came. It's like, well, what do you say after 23 years? You know, I've always wanted to know what happened to her. I felt guilty about the circumstances in which we separated. You know, it was unfair on her to have all that pressure on a young body. And I sat in front of this computer for an hour, playing with words. And all I could say was, glad to see you still alive, Jed. Sent it. Went home, couldn't sleep. Paced up and down the bedroom, I just didn't know what to do. 5 o'clock in the morning, I get up, I go to work, I sit in front of this computer, pleading it to respond. And then about 9:45 in the morning, ping, Jackie Collins comes back, hitting me with War and Peace. It's like, yes, she's still around, she's fantastic. And so we sent the odd polite email backwards and forwards. And trying to cut a long story short, within 3 weeks she'd moved back in. Yeah, that was, but there's a lot of good stuff in between, so back she came. And I remember when we first met, we arranged to meet in a pub. And the strangest thing was, she was only 20 minutes down the road. And so we met in a pub, equidistant between us. And I'd kept all the old photographs, the wedding photographs and everything, and I thought I'd take them along and we'd reminisce. And we sat on this comfy sofa in the pub, side by side, talking to one another. And I'll never forget this, at one point our knees touched. And it was like, bam, this electric shock with both our bodies, but we were not going to do it. And it was like fireworks going off, it was just fantastic, it was just wow. And from that moment on I thought, all right, this woman's going to be back with me, this is meant to be, and you know where this is coming from. So anyway, yeah, 3 weeks later she moved in. And we spent probably the first 3 months just cuddling one another and crying a lot. And it was just such a wonderful experience to have this person back. Because she's still the sweet-natured character that she was 23 years ago. It's wonderful. And all that period of time had disappeared. It didn't matter. It didn't happen. It was this feeling of the whole circle has come back. And anyway, she said, well, I've become a Christian. And I thought, well, I didn't care if she had 8 legs and 2 heads. Yeah, at the end of the day, she's back. You know, she's Christian, so what? And after this 3-month honeymoon period, it was decided that she needed to try and find a church and be fed again, get her faith back. Well, she had lost it, but to be re-fed. So we experimented with various churches. We had a church in the local village in which the good news is that they married us on our 25th wedding anniversary. So last year was our 25th and our 35th and 10th wedding anniversary, which is pretty sweet. And then, because she moved into my house, it was as if it could never be her house. So things had to move on, by which time nothing else mattered to me. My business was suffering a bit because I wasn't concentrating on it very much. And so we made a concerted effort to change things and move and take on a new life as a fresh couple. And the business was actually doing very well. And we decided that we'd wind down the business, sell the assets and just get away from this materialistic world that was mental up in London and try and just calm down a bit. You know, we found each other again. Let's just enjoy the rest of our life. And so we sold everything, made the decision to come down to Cornwall. What a fantastic step that was, you know, what a place to be. And then we had to find new churches in Cornwall, so we went to the local church where we lived in St Breward. And I struggled with it, I've got to say, because suddenly you're thrust into a very sociable, polite world. Now, I struggle with being polite. It's a concept I'm not good with, because you're talking for the sake of talking. There's peculiar conversations that take place, and there's people with faith, and yet I don't know. It's a black and white world in a cold environment. It just seems very odd. Anyway, but Jack had to be fed. It was important. It was important to her. So we continued with that, and then some years down the line, we were told at the tube station. So I thought, yeah, this sounds cool, Poles F, the place I know and love. I came down on holidays and stuff. It's just a wonderful place. In fact, it's the happiest place I've ever been. And I remember the church. So yeah, let's give it a go. So we went one Sunday to the tube station, and it was just like a different world. Thinking, wow, is this fantastic or what? This is all my holidays rolled into one. You walk in, you've got a band playing, fantastic music, hymns I've never heard, words that really mean something, sung with passion. You've got guys like Dave Matthews and other speakers getting up and talking casually about normal things, normal life, real stuff you can really relate to. I was just thinking, wow, this is a youth club I never had, And the amazing thing was there's a lot of guys there, men, Normally they're scared of being bullied, but no, these guys come up to you and listen, hear what you have to say. Beautiful people, beautiful couples. They're just, I can't tell you enough how fantastic it is. But anyway, people accused me of sitting on the fence, but at this stage I was still 4 gardens up, peering over the wall, thinking, this God thing is pretty spooky, do I want to commit to this? And then I study these beautiful people in the church and the passion that they've got. But then on the odd service, it's like a light shines on individuals. And I look at them and I think, there's agony in their eyes, there's concern, they're hollow, they're at the crossroads, they don't know what to do. And it really upsets me. And I'd go up to them and touch them or speak to them and say, look, the words that have been said in the song or the words that the preacher's saying, are meant for you. I can see this meant for you. And then I don't get it. I should grab them by the shoulders and say, look, you're the guys with faith. You've got the connection with the big cheese upstairs. Use it, milk it, really work it to your advantage. And they go, I know. So I'm planted on the fence. I'm seeing these beautiful people with this fantastic faith and this belief that they struggle to use. And I'm thinking, well, do I want to be a member of this club? This is a bit bizarre. But anyway, the love and respect from these people meant I could believe in them. I believe in you guys. You've got something fantastic. And I appreciate it more than anything. And so one day at Tube Station, 9 weeks ago, Richard Kerno comes up for a chat. And that's the nice thing about Tube Station, they come up and chat. They talk to you normally, there's no raising of voices, it's all very calm and collected, the words mean so much. And going back to my 4-letter words, he kept mentioning the word fear. He kept saying, scared of dying. And at the time we were given the freedom to draw and sketch during the process of speech. And it's nice because you don't have to stand up, you don't have to do anything, you just draw, just creating art, it's fantastic, and somebody's talking to you. But every time you say the word fear or scared, like a ton of bricks. I thought, wow, I can relate to this. And then when he finished talking, I saw him on his own and I drifted up to him and said, look, what you said today was pretty special, it cut me deep, it really means a lot. And he said, well, let me pray for you. So I said, yeah, great, fine. So he pulled me to one side and we started praying. And he looked at me in the eye and he said, actually, I think you should declare yourself to the Lord. And I thought, do you know what? Why not? Let's get rid of this fear. It's held me back for so long. Let's just give it to someone else. So, declaration made. Lifted. Just an unbelievable moment. And then a week later, as I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning in bed crying, feeling really strongly about this vision, which I want you guys to help me here, is when you get those crossroad moments and those feelings of being lost and not losing your faith, but just not knowing which direction to go. I have this immensely strong and simple image of the footsteps in the sand, or the footprints in the sand. And if you notice that they're very shallow, very straight and true. You know, he's not carrying you like this with deep, staggered footprints. They're straight and true. He's carrying you lightly across the sand. He's helping you glide. And with all those feelings I had in my stomach, you know, the knots that I had for 20 odd years, they're not knots. They're his fingers caressing your stomach because your burden is so light. And he's letting you glide across the sand. And if you did have a really bad problem, he's got the other hand. But he doesn't have to use it. He's just gliding you across the sand. Please, 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 in future, if you get those moments, help me out with this. Just think of those simple footsteps. Nice and shallow and straight. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, I've been there five years. Whoops, how's this thing going? I've been there, tube station, 5 years, and just watched this slow train coming with Jeff. It was just great to see him make that commitment. And indeed, all that he said is true. Top spoken with passion. Yeah, cool.